Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. These are ripe for civil unrest internationally in 2020. So in the article that goes, and all the article links on this, you want to go more detailed, there was something, it was an interesting phenomenon. It's called the band of instability. It goes from 30 degrees north latitude, right? So south, I guess this is probably makes more sense if I go back to the map here. Right? So let's zoom out again. 30 degrees north latitude is probably right around, it's somewhere in here. Basically, there was a huge band of instability, and you saw it here in areas like Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile, so down here in South America. A lot of South American countries were having prosperous times, but then had economic instability protests. These went from 2019 into 2020. Mexico, you also had a band of instability, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Hong Kong. Ones that just recently we've talked here about on the InfoMullet, I was predicting instability in Ethiopia. That's obviously come true. Sudan after the coup, Algeria, all of these countries would have continuing instability. The two that I said would be new were India and Bangladesh. And I was half right on that. I don't think Bangladesh has not had, and I can stand to be corrected here because it's a country that's sometimes tricky for me to get the news out of, but Bangladesh has not had the kind of instability I was predicting it would. India has, and in fact, if you look at these worsened conditions, this is a website that tracks instability conditions, Fund for Peace. You can see here a lot of the countries I mentioned: Chile, Mozambique, Brazil, Libya, Burkina Faso, India. All of these are increasing. They got worse in 2020. And India itself, the primary driver of this is the Citizens Amendment Act, which is basically a quasi-racist nationalist piece of legislature that in 2019 they passed this, the Citizens Amendment Act. This is the Hinduvata. If you hear white supremacy in the West, you know what that means. You kind of chauvinism, European white supremacy stuff. The Indian version of that is called Hinduva, which is Hindu nationalism. And it's being spearheaded by a group called the BJP. This is a political party. This is the major political party. It's described as the Indians People Party. I say major because the Prime Minister of India hails from this party. They've been around for a long time. And what began as a populist nationalist wave that swept the world, it was the same thing that brought Trump to power. It brought Johnson to power in the UK. Populism, Duarte in Philippines. There was a populist wave in after effects from the financial recession. And during 2014, the BJP run the majority of seats in the parliament. And they have in some coalitions, they got 60%. So now they have a super majority, and they passed. They're all about, and the prime minister's name is Modal. Their view on Hinduvata is religious conversion, really aggressive stance to Pakistan over Kashmir, very nativist economic policies, and there's just it's almost like having President Trump in a Hindu nationalist party. I mean, or modal is, you could say that President Trump is like having modal in a U.S. white supremacy party. And they are very similar. If you translate and read their literature, they're very similar on their aggressive nationalism and sort of America first, India first. What they did is they passed the Citizens Amendment Act, which distinguished the pathways for citizenship. If you're coming into the country, that religion became a method to become a citizen of India, unless you were Muslim. They just left that one out. They basically said, hey, if you're Hindu, you can become a citizen of India. That's great. And a couple, Christian and other stuff, but Muslim, they left out. And this is not wise because people say that Muslim is a minority population in India, but India's got 1.2 billion people, and the Muslim minority is 200 million people. So there were a lot of instability related to CAA in the early part of 2020. Then the COVID, you had February, you had some riots in Delhi where literally within a couple of days you had dozens of people killed. And I've got a link to this below. But then COVID came, and that kind of changed the equation, but it didn't change the motivation, I think, motivating Prime Minister Modal's government. And what you still see now is you would see these things of like, there would be all sorts of people exploiting the rules all over, but they would find the group of Muslims who didn't follow the rules and blame the outbreak on them. So they were using the COVID pandemic and the spread. They would try and find scapegoat situations and say, look, it's the fault of the Muslim. And this just plays into this Hindu-Muslim tension in India. Now, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might get, probably because of the pandemic. That's definitely been a suppressant on a lot of stuff, but it wasn't light. So I think the forecast on that one's probably half right. Bangladesh didn't nearly have the instability I feared, but India was pretty close. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.